Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hi, this is Shelley, and you are listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology podcast. And this week it is February 7th, 2022. I want to welcome you. And this week, it's been a really long, kind of stressful week up until now. And so I apologize out of the gate for not giving you an earlier recording, or even one probably for the end of last week, but I'm here now and I want to thank you for joining me. Hang on one second here. Okay, well, I'm gonna have a little bit of screen activity here for the Zoom. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. We're gonna just do a screen recording this week, and I'm just not in the place of mind to do anything more than that this week. So my apologies if you're really looking forward to seeing me. Probably be back on track next week, but this week we're just going to do the screen, and that way you get to see a larger view of this chart. So today is Monday, February 7th, and the moon is in Taurus. Moon went into Taurus at 5:52 p.m. Sunday Eastern Time. And so today and tomorrow, the moon will be in Taurus, and it enters Gemini at 5:27 a.m. on Wednesday. And then we have a Cancer moon for the weekend, which enters on the 11th of Friday, the 11th at 6:27 p.m. Eastern. So the moon in Taurus is going to have us focused on money and what we can do to grow things. Given the chart right now, you can see that currently with this chart, we have a Taurus rising. The moon is at 8 degrees, about to join Uranus. So moon in Taurus is going to focus us on feminine pursuits, things that enhance our beauty, things that enhance our money. Money tends to be the realm of communication and love language for Taurus. And that means that we're going to feel most comfortable pursuing things that are enhancing our beauty, enhancing our finances. And we also really enjoy nature and growing things. They are the green thumbs of the zodiac. They can grow money, but they can also grow beautiful gardens, agriculture. And as far as like the beauty is concerned, I just feel a bit repetitive saying these because Uranus has been in Taurus for quite a while. And so of course, I've been repeating the Taurus theme for a while. But when I say Taurus, I mean that it's an earth sign, and that because it's an earth sign and it's a material sign, Virgo is material, Taurus is material, and Capricorn is material, they all understand the physicality of existence in this realm. And that means that we will be much more aware for the next couple of days of being in a material world. And so the moon is also a decisive or deciding factor in horary astrology. It's the body in the heavens that we use to determine if something will come to fruition. And so in Taurus, it means that we are highly focused on the themes of Taurus and money, and really, honestly, it's a value sign, and it's also one that really appreciates quality. And so having goods of quality, makeup of quality, clothing that's going to last for a long time, that could be something that you are seeking under the Taurus moon. With Taurus 3 degrees off of Uranus, it means that we are in the material world, in our territory, in our value system, seeking to have independence, because Uranus wants us to be free and not have to answer to anyone else, as opposed to the freedom of Jupiter, which is also a freedom-loving planet, but it really wants freedom of movement and freedom from consequences per se. Uranus isn't necessarily looking for freedom from consequences, and what Uranus does is it shows us our hypocrisy And we are more aware of the hypocrisy in Taurus of the material world. And so, this is why we see this tremendous differentiation between the haves and the have-nots, as it were. And so that kind of hypocrisy of, just as an example, and I don't know if it's truly hypocrisy, but like say, philanthropy of wealthy people, trying to help those with less money, but yet maybe going out and buying $2,000 wallets or something like that. That would be an example of that kind of hypocrisy in Taurus with Uranus. But, the humanitarian energy is really strong with Uranus. So if you go over, Uranus rules in Aquarius, and that's an air sign. So the planet becomes, like an air element, which is thought. And it is also the overseer of humanitarian endeavors. And when you take all of the air signs, which is Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius, you can go through and see how they relate in the layout of a chart. And I'm going to digress into this for just a minute because it's really interesting. And I think it's pretty relevant when you're learning astrology to understand how there's a progression in astrology through the signs and through the whole chart. So when you have a chart, the first house is the sense of self. And then the first half, which is the first 6 signs, the lower half of the chart, is the interpersonal half of the chart, which means we interact with our friends, we interact with our neighbors, we interact with our siblings and our family. And it's more of a one-on-one interaction. It's about our personal feelings. It's about our personal finances, our personal interactions, communications, and where we choose to take action for our career, but it's the workplace. And that's the 6th house. And it's also the energy that is more directly related to us as an individual. The upper half of the chart is how we relate to the collective. And so when you progress these signs through the wheel, you start with the first quadrant, which is the first, second, and third houses. And the third sign, I'm looking at today's chart here. The third sign here is Gemini. And Gemini is an air sign, and it rules our personal thoughts, our personal communications, and our personal relationships in a social circle. When you go to the next sign, Libra, and in a natural chart with Aries on the cusp of the first house, Libra rules partnerships. Libra, being the sign of the scales, has each side of the scale, which balances, but historically, observationally, you can see Libra will bring in a third person. And the reason for that is they balance out through a triangle. So Gemini is twins. It's me and the other, you and me and the flip side. So it's the twins, or 2. Libra is 3. And then moving up here to the top half of the chart, Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is naturally this house. In this chart today, it's ruling closer to the midheaven in the house of career, which is the 10th house. But Aquarius being up here in the we area, it's about the relationship I have to everyone else, like the collective. How are we going to do something together? And so Aquarius is the energy of multiples. We have the 2, the 3, and more than 3 or multiples. And so when you interpret a chart, if you see the sign of Gemini, you know that's a house where people tend to do things more than once. It's a house where they may see 2 sides of the coin and may behave in 2 different ways, which are, frustrating for those around them if you're expecting it to be tangible and consistent, which is an earth energy. So Gemini duality, I guess you would say Libra is more even triplicity, even though it's 2, it's me and a partner for life, but it's the third person who balances the triangle and referees, honestly, in some aspect. And then Aquarius, of course, up here is ruling us, the collective us. And that translates to humanism, humanitarianism. How are we going to handle the planet? Now, that being said, the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, and Uranus is right next to the moon today. So we are shining the light. We are shining a light of intention, which the moon is, the intention and the culmination, the final story, the outcome of a storyline. And so Uranus is about the Aquarian endeavors. It's about humanitarianism, alternative things, because it's always multiples. So you're going to get multiple ways of doing things. It is quantum energy, because quantum mentality goes beyond just the linear thinking, the two things or two things in a row. Quantum means it comes from every direction. And so that's what Aquarian seems to be like. And I was talking to a client recently, and she had the same rising sign I did, which put her Aquarius in the house of home and family like mine. And I mentioned to her that I like to move around my furniture, or I have to shake up the way my house is arranged. And she's like, yes. And I told her it was because she had Aquarius in the house of home and family, that you need that fresh air, fresh energy. And she's like, yes, my friends are always asking why I'm changing things around. I said, that's why. So if you do have Aquarius in the house of home and family, or Uranus in the house of home and family, you may need to change things up. So that's the energy of Aquarius. And now moon today, approaching Uranus, is wanting us to shake things up, have alternative points of view, have multiple activities or behaviors associated with Taurus, associated with Uranus. So Uranus will show us alternatives, and the alternative to our point of view. And that means unusual hairstyles, unusual makeup, unusual clothing, inventions in science, alternative ways of thinking in science, that it's not just the one path, it's a quantum path, and it's a clarifying path, because Uranus and the sign of Aquarius tend to be about clarifying and clearing clutter. So if you're particularly interested in clearing clutter at the beginning of the week, that could be why. Okay, North Node now is at 27 degrees Taurus, which sits right on my Jupiter. And let me tell you, it's really been fortunate with my finances lately. It's been very good. And Jupiter rules expansion. Jupiter is currently in the sign of Pisces, which is your dreams and desires, but it's also the sign that Jupiter co-rules. So it's a rather comfortable area. And that being said, while it may be familiar with the energy of Pisces, it technically rules Sagittarius, which does square the energy of Pisces. And squares are 90-degree angles in the sky. So those of you with Gemini and Sagittarius planets, you're going to be feeling this energy probably uncomfortably, especially if you have Pluto in early Sagittarius, which would be probably right around 2007. That's when Pluto went into Capricorn. So maybe 95, 96, somewhere in there, I think, was when Pluto went into Sagittarius. So the Sagittarians are feeling that Jupiter square to your Pluto, which is a very strong energy of buying a house, wanting a move, changing countries, changing places that you live, or normal day-to-day activities. Also, because Jupiter's in Pisces, we're much more involved in our intuition, in the information that comes to us through our emotions. We may be more weepy. Sagittarius tends to not be terribly overly attached to things or emotional, but Jupiter in Pisces makes us very sentimental about our things, and we don't necessarily want to let go of things. And so that's an interesting area of sky for the Sagittarius Pluto people. My daughter is one of those, and she's been definitely struggling with some issues in the last couple of weeks about education. Jupiter is the ruler of higher education. And so actually anybody with Pluto in Sagittarius will get a hit from Jupiter this year. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. Pluto, the planet of psychology and legality, research, digging deeper, deeper emotionalism, values of self to others. Because remember, Pluto rules Scorpio. Scorpio is in the top half of the chart. So it's going to be the collective value system squaring Jupiter. So the people born in the 90s and up until the turn of the millennium, which I guess technically are the millennials and maybe Gen X, those people are going to be feeling this with the Jupiter in Pisces, and you're going to be having more things come your way that are associated with the elderly or wiser older people. Pisces rules the elderly in some form, and so does Capricorn. Those two signs are very strongly triggered right now. 2 planets in Pisces, Neptune and Jupiter, and 4 planets in Capricorn. So right now, the majority of the planets are falling into Capricorn, Pisces, and Taurus. And so we're going to feel very weepy. We're going to feel, is our value strong in society? Is our value strong to ourselves? I've been noticing this past week, there's a lot of self-worth issues and self-evaluation, and self-love needs to happen. And so self-care. And that's a really strong message from the universe right now. Really, in the material world, you need to take care of yourself. So if you're looking for permission, this is my permission. I'm giving it to you. Okay. These are, I'm just going to use my little mouse cursor, and there's this really cool cursor, and it just passed 11:11, by the way. There's a really cool cursor that I used to have on one of my computers that would have pixie dust following it. Might have to look into whether or not that's available. It's called Omnidazzle. Very fun little app you can put on your computer. And that would add a little interest, wouldn't it? And I'm just going to show you real quick since I've got it as a background. This is one of my paintings I did recently. I saw it, something similar to that painting on another artist's site, and it was really cute. And so I recreated it myself. I really like polka dots. So, okay, so up here we've got Mars and Venus within 2 degrees of each other in Capricorn. So what does that mean? Venus is, again, the ruler of Taurus. It's the ruler of Libra. It's about relationships and partnering. It's about love. That's a really great theme as we go closer and closer to Valentine's Day on, I believe it is a week from today, Monday. And so Venus and Mars, when they're together in a chart, they are the indicators of feminine energy and masculine energy. And so when we see them together, it's as if, and this isn't a birth chart, those people fulfill their own desires by actively seeking out what they desire. So you have the desire in Venus, you take the action in Mars. When they're together, they are in alignment to get it done. So what happens in love is people with a Venus and Mars next to each other in their charts, which my son has that exactly opposite this degree too, at 10 and 14 degrees of Cancer, I believe, or 12 and 14, somewhere in there. It's very close to exactly opposite. It means that you're taking care of your own needs in whatever capacity. In Capricorn, it's about you're taking care of your own material needs. And I have a client who has almost this exact aspect in her chart. She's in a Venus and Mars return, and absolutely very strong woman with her career. She's very driven to do it for herself. And I remember when she was just out of high school and she was kind of lost and knew she needed money and didn't know what she was going to do. But since then, and it hasn't been very long, only maybe 5 years, absolutely is taking care of her monetary needs. So in Capricorn, that is part of the storyline, that you will take care of your monetary needs. If it were the opposite in Cancer, you connect to family members. You may be the nurturer or someone who gives value to the family, and then that value is reciprocated through finances somehow. That doesn't mean that it will always be the case, but there will always be some connection to family that is associated with the drive and desire you have within your career. My son's Venus and Mars in Cancer fall in his house of work, a Virgo house. So while in most signs, most houses, that Venus, Mars, and Cancer would say, hey, I'm very dedicated to the family in the house of work. It can be like work, it can be task oriented. And I know he was with his dad for a few years growing up, and he would always have to do weed pulling and cleaning tasks and chores, and he hated them. But it's funny because his Venus and Mars are in Cancer in the house of Virgo in the 6th house, and his father's a Virgo. And so mine. But it's kind of amusing that if you think of it, your Venus is also your mother and your Mars is your father. And so your parents show up in multiple places in a chart, in Venus and Mars, in the sun and the moon, in the 7th and 8th houses. So you can get a lot of information through those placements in your chart as to what kind of parenting you had, what kind of parents you have now, or how you interact with them. So the Venus and Mars in Capricorn, very material, driven to get things that are securing your status. It can be ambitious and status seeking, because Capricorn is a very literal sign. And that means that when you have strong Capricorn planets, you see the value in the material world of yourself. And with Venus, it's about your desires, and Mars is how you take action. So it's a very large part of your psyche and your personality. We also have Mercury up here, and Mercury is your thought and how you process information and how you express information to other people. It is the messenger god. And so it's the god of communications and the god of transportation, because if you look at the actual imagery of Mercury, it is a god with winged shoes. And so there is a connection to travel, but there's also connection to being the messenger. And so this is when we find out information. He's in the last degrees, he's 2 away from Pluto, and he's in the last 5 degrees of the house. Well, in this sign, not the house, because the houses change every minute of the day. The whole wheel rotates as the sun goes through the sky, because the horizon, the center, this center line is the horizon of the earth. So as the sun goes around, which, the earth is in the center of the chart, it rotates the outer wheel. And so every 2 hours, because remember, there are 24 hours in a day, every 2 hours, the rising sign changes. And so where these planets are change throughout the day as far as in the sky around us, but they are fixed-ish in the sign until they transit out of the sign. So Mercury changes out of that sign into Aquarius on Valentine's Day. And so over the course of this week, Mercury will move the next couple degrees to Pluto, cross over Pluto, which will be a tremendous, like this whole week is going to be a huge watershed, psychological watershed week. What that means is Pluto wants to dig deep into our psyche and find out what motivates us. And it's in Capricorn. So that kind of psyche analysis will be in politics. It will be in business. It will be in large companies and corporations. We will probably hear about more CEOs taking flight and leaving companies this week, because Pluto is getting triggered by Mercury, which is the thought process. And now that we know the information, Mercury is now direct. He's already gone through this part of the sky a few weeks ago, about 6 weeks ago. He retrograded back from Aquarius, the sign of awareness and clarity and organizing the information, back over Pluto, getting that information from research, from understanding on a deeper emotional level, which would be intuitive. He went past that Pluto energy, and then he rotated back, and he's like, okay, I had to go back and get my purse. Now I'm going back over, and I'm going crossing paths with Pluto. Say Pluto's standing by the door there. He left that, or she, let's say today Mercury is a she. It's a very androgynous planet. So today Mercury is a she. She left her purse in the house. So she leaves the house without her purse first time. Boom, goes over Pluto, passes Pluto at the hall by the door. Pluto's kind of half in the doorway to the bathroom on the way out, and in the hall kind of going, hey, see you again real soon. Mercury gets across Pluto. Pluto's doing the research and then gets into Aquarius. So now Mercury in Aquarius is lit up. He's outside. It's a clear sunny day, or excuse me, she's outside. Mercury today is a she. Outside, clear sunny day, looks up at the sky, goes, wow, it's so beautiful. I have such a good feeling, clear-mindedness. Everything's popping. Everything works for me. It's all organized. I understand things. And then, oh, darn, I forgot my purse. Got to go back in. Changes directions, goes back into the house, passes Pluto by the doorway there in the bathroom. Or maybe, they say that's, the office. People call the bathroom the office. Could be a library, whichever you want, imagery-wise. Pluto's getting the information. So Mercury goes past Pluto, waves, hey, see ya. I forgot my purse. I forgot my belongings back here in Capricorn, the sign of material goods. Got to go back. Grabs the purse, goes back direct. Now Mercury's direct. Goes past Pluto. Pluto says, wait a minute, you got a minute? I want to talk to you. Really? What's up? Well, I was just doing some thinking here in the throne room, and I came up with some really interesting information that wasn't available to me before. I want to give it to you to pass on out there outside in the outside world. You have access to internet and to broadcasting and podcasts and YouTube and all that, right? Oh yeah, I'm going into Aquarius. It's a sunny day and my voice travels really far in Aquarius. Great. Let me tell you all the details that I've come across here at my time on the internet in the throne room. And so Pluto kibitzes with Mercury, finds out the truth about things, the truth of the matter. And by the way, Mercury was here a year ago in January, on January 6th. And so now Pluto's saying, guess what? I've got all this new information and I'm going direct too. We're both heading forward. Here's my information. Let's do something about it. Mercury's saying, cool, give me what you got. I'm going outside, passes Pluto, goes outside. Let me tell you when the two are going to be kibitzing, because they will be. It will be Friday, February 11th. They meet up right there outside of the restroom at 9:04 a.m. Eastern and 6:04 a.m. Pacific. So that's when the information is going to be at its peak. It won't be necessarily when the information is only coming in. It will be all of the time this week heading up to that and a few days after. So it's going to be an extremely busy news week. A lot of information coming out and profound information. Pluto is major life change. So when Mercury, planet of communications, goes across the planet of life change, information is going to be life changing. And Pluto right now is at 27 degrees of Capricorn, and it's an exact trine to 27 degrees north node and 27 degrees south node here in Scorpio. So Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. He's talking about the past, the history, past lives, past psychology, past emotions are going to be coming out. And the north node is how do we transmute what we've got from the past to a happier, more positive energy. Taurus, this is material goods. This is the stock market. This is investment. This is money as it relates to those goods. It is the material goods. And then Mercury goes across Pluto, kind of triggering that south node here in Scorpio and the north node in Taurus. And trines, yes, trines are difficult. So when this happens, this is a positive growth trine that will bring out things that are very emotional for the collective. Pluto touches the masses because Pluto is a slow-moving planet. We have generations assigned a significant sign of Pluto. So the generation of Gen Xers, and that's a whole other podcast, is the generations according to astrology. They are not divided the way the media would have them divided. They are divided by Pluto. Pluto going into a new sign is a whole generation of Pluto and Capricorn, a whole generation of people who are understanding the need for literal communication and tangible goods and material responsibility. And so when Mercury hits Pluto this week, we are going into a very big cycle of watershed emotions and understanding. And then Mercury goes into the sign of Aquarius next week, like I said, on Monday. And he does it within, 10 hours of the moon going into Leo. And Leo is the opposite of Aquarius. So we will be addressing the sense of self as it relates to others, which is a relational energy of Leo. It is risk-taking. It is the sense of self as an authority figure. And then Mercury in Aquarius is, okay, moon, you're in Leo, but I'm saying that I need to communicate for the big picture, for everybody. And moon in Leo saying, but what about me? I want to relate one-on-one. And Mercury is saying, no, you can't just relate one-on-one. You have to relate to all. And so there will be this tug of war between the moon and Mercury. But at the same time, there will be, and this relates to us because our sense of self is the sun, but also moon in Leo is about the ego. And so, of course, the ego in all of us will be waking up with the moon in Leo, and we want the attention. We want to connect one-on-one. We want to get appreciation. And Mercury wants us to be aware that, yes, you may want appreciation, but we have to take care of the collective. And so we're going to be going through this fairly brief but significant energy on Monday, Valentine's Day, of I want my romance, but I also want to take care of other people who are less fortunate. And so I would say on Valentine's Day, it's not only a day to celebrate love, because if anybody loves love, I would say it would be Leo and Taurus. So they do square each other in the zodiac, but Taurus is very practical and traditional with the love. They want hearts and flowers and wine and, music playing, because they are a very embracing energy of music, and as is Libra. But Leo is about the emotion and the heart. I mean, when I think of Leo, I think of all this love just exuding out of the life of a Leo energy. Yes, it can be about ego, and it can be the need to feel like people appreciate you, but it is a very loving sign and a very generous sign. So the beauty of the culmination of Leo and Aquarius on Valentine's Day means that not only are we loving our partner, we're loving humanity, and we're giving, and we have the presence of mind to be aware of love for humanity. So I find it a wonderful energy, especially because the sun will also be in Aquarius. And it's just a really great day to consider giving to charity or giving to people who are not necessarily expecting any kind of love energy on that day. And so we do have to have universal love with Aquarius, and that's what we're heading to. Anyway, this week, very strong energy with the end degrees of Capricorn beginning Aquarius. We will get a strong taste of that Pluto shift because Mercury is trying to understand the information that Pluto has to give. And when Pluto moves in next year, he will be lit up as if somebody struck a match and lit his tail on fire. It's going to be pretty big. Okay, so Mercury in Aquarius, weather patterns, weather events, windy, clear, tornadoes, and I mean, it could technically be hurricanes because Jupiter and not hurricanes, blizzards. Jupiter and Neptune are the water energy right now, so that's travel potentially going to be affected. And even though Mercury right now, not quite. Mars right now is in positive aspect to Jupiter along with Venus, but Mercury is running into an inconjunct energy, which is 30 degrees away from Jupiter when he goes in next week. So now he changed back to a guy. So he's very androgynous. Anyway, Mercury in conjunct Jupiter and Neptune. Next week's going to be an ugly travel day for a good portion of the country because Mercury transits over a generational energy of Pluto and goes into the universal sign of Aquarius. And so it's going to be a weather event that affects large quantities of people. On top of that, Mercury will be moving closer to Saturn once he's in Aquarius. So even though he's just in early degrees as of Monday next week, it's probably going to be part of next week's podcast. Mercury in Aquarius, he will be there for, I want to say, about 5 weeks. Let me look it up real quick here for you. Mercury goes into Aquarius on the 14th and stays there until the 10th of March. So about 3.5 weeks. And so that time is going to be much more mental clarity, entrepreneurial endeavors. Messages come out of nowhere. You'll be getting information coming your way fast and furious. It is the fleet-footed messenger. And so not only are we getting messages, we are thinking clearer. We are speaking very rapidly to get all the information out. So next week's show is probably going to be super fast as far as how I talk. But this week, very thoughtful, very grounded energy. And Venus and Mars will still be in Capricorn next week along with Pluto. So there is an element of groundedness, which is probably pretty good to balance out the Mercury energy. Sun right now in Aquarius and Saturn in Aquarius. So that is dad. Sun, Aquarius, father, clarity of information. Saturn is the authority figure. And in Aquarius, it's kind of breaking free. The sun is now past Saturn by 2 degrees. And I'll just wiggle my mouse around here. Sun and Saturn right there. Just past it, which means the sun is not being restricted anymore by Saturn. And he is taking the energy of authority. And of course, sun wants authority, wants to be the overlord of his domain. And so he's going on through Aquarius saying, no, I am my own boss. Stop telling me what to do. And, so if you know anyone who's Aquarius, that is extra strong right now. And he is just feeling like, hey, I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to do my own thing. Stop telling me what to do. Seeking out new, unusual ideas and connecting in alternate ways to the collective. Jupiter, Neptune, we've talked about. Chiron and Aries. Again, it's about men. It's about drive. It's about assertiveness and aggressiveness and ambition. It's about hammering it out, hitting your head on a wall to get it done, using your head in a physical sense. So it's really, we want to get it done through physical effort. This is the time of the Olympics. So Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo connect to athleticism. Aries is going to see let's just put it this way, when the moon just went past Aries. So we did see a little bit of drama associated with the Olympics this past weekend with one of the, I don't know if she wasn't a figure skater. I can't remember. It was a woman who was having some drama around her because of her quote unquote missing in action. But then the head of the Olympic Committee, head being Aries, had a conversation on Zoom or something, and that still wasn't satisfying people who are trying to make sure that she has a voice over in China, because I think she's Chinese ancestry, but I don't know if she's, I don't think she's native Chinese. She's not representing China, if I remember. But anyway, they're really concerned about her over in China right now because she has kind of gone underground after speaking out about situations with, maybe she's from China. She spoke out about sexual assault from a higher up within her athlete realm, within her particular realm of activity in the Olympics. And they have been having a struggle getting her out. Like they didn't even know if she was around, but the head of the Olympic Committee did speak with her, but people are still not satisfied with that she still has freedom of speech. So definitely there is a problem with freedom of speech over in China right now. So anyway, getting on with Chiron and Aries, it is the wounding around being able to have your own identity, but also the energy of men, the energy of assertiveness. Then we have Moon and Uranus in Taurus. So we've already talked about that. And pretty much that's what's going on this week. Let me just look real quick before I finish up with the story. Yeah, Sirius goes into Gemini this week. It ends up from Taurus. And Sirius, the asteroid CERES, is at 29 of Taurus right now, which is food. And, CERES, it's the beginning of the word cereal. That's how you can easily remember what that asteroid rules over. It rules over grains and, nutrition. So diet is going to be big this week until Sirius goes into Gemini, in which case we may find out in the news something that connects the food to chemicals, which air signs are more closely linked to chemistry and the science of chemistry. And I just found out one of the items I bought, it was a soup mix from Progresso, actually says at the bottom, bioengineered ingredients in this. And I'm thinking, why do we need to bioengineer, vegetables and noodles that are in a minestrone soup? But that was the first time I even saw the labeling. That was pretty amazing. I probably wouldn't have gotten it if I had seen that when I was buying it. I usually read labels. And so Sirius in Gemini will be the label reader of the zodiac. Anyway, that is the information for the week. And I hope to see you here soon. I don't know if I'm going to do another podcast for this week. Probably not, unless there's something else that develops that I want to talk about. I will see you here again next week. But that being said, thank you for having patience with me. Definitely some strong energies around Aquarius right now that are having their say in my personal life. And if you've got some energy around health right now, Venus, Mars, Mercury, and Pluto in Capricorn can bring up bone issues, skeletal issues, teeth and denture and dental issues. Pluto in Capricorn can also indicate surgery. All of those things I have some connection with in my family and in myself right now. Lower back issues, I think I mentioned previously. But yeah, so if you've got those health issues, don't be surprised. We've also got the Moon Uranus conjunction, which rules the body too. All the earth signs are connected in some fashion to the body. And Virgo is the digestive system and the intestines and health and medical issues in general. Capricorn is skeleton, dentures, dental, teeth, and the skull. So it's anything with the bones or the physical structure of the body. And then Taurus rules the body as a whole. And so it can also mean the throat and the throat chakra if you've got issues there. Okay, so that's all I have for you. Gonna spin my little mouse around the chart so I can know where I'm at to edit it. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Hi, this is Shelley. Thank you for joining us this week. To contact me for a private reading, go to angeliczodiac.com under the Readings tab. Background music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. To purchase my ebook, Learn Astrology, you can find it at angeliczodiac.com, including discounts. Be sure to check back next week and subscribe through iTunes at AstroEnergy Astrology Show.